Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Daily IoT. Let's get right up into the update. I don't have much for you because I'm still having problems with this stinking comm link, but I wanted to post an update and not just curl up in a ball and stick my head in the sand, which is really what I want to do right now. So quick update, I went out, I bought a USB 2.0 hub from the Walmart and plugged it in, and my Trinket went straight into bootloader mode like a champ. So that was it. It just didn't like the USB 3.0 ports on my MacBook, and so USB 2.0, Walmart, you buy it cheaper online. I just wanted it right away, so I paid like $11 for this thing at Walmart. Worked just fine. My Trinket went into bootloader mode. I was able to flash a simple flashing LED firmware to it and test it out. All checked out. That is great. Then I decided I was going to try and take a shortcut on this comm link. I was going to use the MySensors libraries. They have one for the Raspberry Pi, and they also have one for Arduino, which the Trinket is an Arduino-ish board. And so I got it up and compiled and running as far as I could tell on the Pi, and then I moved on to the Trinket and ran into a whole mess of problems from there. It took me 3 hours to get it to compile on the Trinket, after learning many different things about the Trinket that I did not know before. But the Trinket uses this ATtiny 85 chip, which is not your normal Arduino supported chip, even though you can program it in the IDE. And the biggest surprise that I found out during that 3-hour mess of compiling errors is that there is no Arduino IDE hardware SPI support. What do I mean by that? In Arduino, you can do include SPI.h, and then you can do things like SPI.begin, and everything works on your hardware. That will not work on the Trinket. It does not support the Arduino SPI, but it does support hardware SPI. So the description says hardware SPI and I2C, which is true, but you have to manipulate the registers manually, just like you would on any raw microcontroller, which is kind of a pain if you've never done that before. I have with some PIC microcontrollers years before. It's been a while, but it's not super foreign to me, but still it's a pain. And so I couldn't just hook up SPI, and so I had to get all those errors resolved. I got everything fixed after 3 hours, and I found that the firmware was too big for the Trinket. It's got 8K of flash, 3 of which, almost 3, are used for the bootloader, and that leaves only about 5 for your programs, and the MySensors firmware clocked in at around 7.4K. And so after all that, the Trinket's just not big enough, doesn't have enough flash memory to use the MySensors library. Okay, fine, so we gotta go back to the drawing board. I found a Node.js library for the Pi that I'm gonna try and get up and running for the RFM module that hopefully will work. But it was then that I found that I had to do this manual SPI stuff. So I'm now writing, using some other code from Adafruit, a hardware SPI that looks like the Arduino SPI so that this other library I found, this other Arduino library, will work. And so I got all that compiled and running, and nothing. That's been my day-to-day. So I do not have a comm link still. It's time to break out the logic analyzer and see what's actually happening on all of the lines. I've got my massive beefy cap power supply working. I've got a voltage regulator over here on the Pi. I think everything's wired up right, but we're gonna throw the logic analyzer on it to see exactly what is happening, to make sure that we're getting a good clock signal, good data, and all that other stuff, so we can get this thing working. So that is the latest update. As part of this, the Trinket, I still have hope that the Trinket is going to work. I really think that it's just the right amount of hardware to use as the node for the dryer, to send a message back to the hub, even though I could finish this quickly by grabbing my Arduino Uno or a Photon and have this up and running, but I'm resisting the urge because I don't want to stick one of those things up on my dryer. I just don't want to. And so I still have hopes for the Trinket, but I'm definitely going to say I do not recommend the Trinket if this is your first time getting into an Internet of Things project or a maker project. It's just there's too much with setting up the IDE and getting all that stuff worked out, and then it's very low feature and you can't just use it out of the box with Arduino IDE, even though you can program it in the IDE, you just don't have access to all the features and things like that. So I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna rule it off as not a good buy until I get all the way through it, but as a beginner, definitely not a recommended first platform to start playing around with. Start with something like an Uno, Photon, something like that first. So that's the latest on the Trinket and the texting dryer project. We're still stuck trying to get this stinking comm link up. We are going to get it, just a matter of time. I'm gonna edit this video and go work on it some more right now. So that is the latest. Question of the day. I'm not gonna say I have buyer's remorse on the Trinket. Like I said, I still hope that it can work out, but I feel like, they could have pointed out that Arduino SPI doesn't work, so I'm a little jaded about that right now. So my question of the day is, what is the thing in life that you've had the biggest buyer's remorse over? What's that thing that you just were excited to get? You saved up your money, you bought it, you were jammed that when it showed up at your door, and then you decided, this was stupid, why did I buy this? So buyer's remorse, biggest buyer's remorse item purchase in your life. Stick it in the comments below. I appreciate everybody watching Daily IoT, the show where together we're learning how to make, even if it's hard sometimes, the Internet of Things one day at a time.